Hello, folks. I'm Scott SCS, but that's not important right now, as in this episode of Cogs, Gears, and Optic Sensors, we are looking at Transformers number 6 from the April of 1985 by Marvel Comics. Bob Budiansky writes, and Alan Kupperberg provides the art, as well as this cover showcasing the two largest Decepticon figures on toy shelves at that time, duking it out for supremacy, whilst a helpless US Air Force helicopter looks on, giving you a real sense of the scale of the conflict. Our first interior page, however, picks up from a previous issue, as Shockwave looks to claim the high-tech oil rig for himself, as the workers look on in disbelief, which is understandable if a giant talking purple alien laser gun robot had just arrived whilst you were doing your day job. The response from GB Blackrock, though, who coincidentally has never been seen in the same room as Tony Stark, is to get Josie to launch the fleet of helicopters and mortar guns that he just happened to have stationed and on standby, which give me real Cobra Fang and transportable tactical battle platform vibes from the G.I. Joe toy line, for any of you familiar with those. I don't, however, want to have to think about the health and safety implications of having all this ordnance around somewhere that's drilling for fuel. But, not to be dissuaded, Shockwave continues his barrage, sadly not the 1985 one, tearing into the oil rig, although I'm not entirely sure how much of it will be left for him to claim once he's done. GB Starkrock, however, still clinging on to his intellectual property rights, launches surface-to-air harpoons at Shockwave, which I'm absolutely sure are really a genuine thing. And I just love this panel of Josie, who looks so non-fussed as she doesn't even look at which button she's pressing, which really makes you wonder which part of her job she had prepped for the most. All the harpoons do, however, is succeed in ripping off a chunk of the oil rig, and Shockwave, having well and truly had enough, strobe lights all the helicopters into submission, although thankfully the reader is shown that all the pilots are still afloat. Let's just hope they can all swim and there are no Sharkticons about. Blackrock, however, realizing that he is outgunned and outmatched, puts the message out to abandon ship, despite protests from Josie, and as Shockwave manages to shake the harpoons free, the falling debris damages the facility even further and sets off a devastating chain reaction in the process, the result of which is poor Josie getting electrocuted. But as she is rescued by Blackrock, they are confronted by Shockwave, now in his robot mode, who, having turned up and trashed the place, somewhat seems content to let the humans go with just a message. Let's just hope that poor Josie makes a full recovery and becomes a contributing member of society once more. Back at the Ark, though, Megatron is becoming increasingly frustrated at his fate, and I always wondered that, as he took longer to recover from the poison fuel than most, if Shockwave maybe hadn't put quite as much effort in as he could have, because that would suit his purposes to take command of the Decepticons. But as Megatron vows revenge, his former followers leave the base. Elsewhere within the Ark, Buster has found the detached head of a still online Optimus Prime and is trying to gauge what he can do, if anything, to help, as Optimus implores our human hero to trust him. Mind you, anyone who has to say, "You must trust me," twice, in as many panels, is raising a few eyebrows in my book. But trusting Buster does, and he was obviously the kid in class who used to lick the 9-volt batteries for a dare, as he presses the two pads to his temples, becoming our second electrocution of the issue, and collapses to the floor with the reader none the wiser to his or Prime's fate. Turning the page, though, reveals poor Ratchet parked up, all on his lonesome, awaiting Buster's return, as he is surprised to see a fully functioning Shockwave returning from his jolly at the oil rig. Shockwave boasts to Megatron that he now has a stable source of fuel in the rig he's just trashed, and as Megatron continues to plot his return, he manages to break free of his medical restraints. Back to Buster, though, who is slowly regaining consciousness, and fortunate enough not to have been found, staggers back to Ratchet, still feeling the effects of the electric shock, and reveals to our Autobot medic that he believes all his fellow Autobots to be dead after having seen them strung up in our previous issue. Changing the scene again, Megatron catches Shockwave unaware, and with one blast of his trademarked fusion cannon, sends him careering through the mountain, eventually coming to rest in a small nearby town. much to the surprise of the local high school football team. Now, I have to say, I have always found that the student in this panel reminds me of the squeaky voiced kid from The Simpsons as I've reread this issue over the years. Megatron, though, believing he has the upper hand, closes down on Shockwave, only to be launched out of the stadium while Shockwave waxes lyrical about how strong he is. And seeing his opportunity to prove his point, Megatron re engages with his fusion cannon, only for Shockwave to deflect the blast and run at Megatron with a water tower, whilst loudly stating who is clearly the strongest Decepticon. A page turn reveals our third electrocution in this issue, as the water short circuits Megatron. Shocking stuff indeed, but I do want to keep things current, as we see Shockwave transforming into gun mode, and he blasts Megatron into a crater in the ground and drags the Decepticon leader's malfunctioning body back to the Ark, only leaving him online because it suits his purposes to do so. Buster is somewhat surprised at the true victor of this encounter. If Shockwave can defeat Megatron, what else can he do? Shockwave presents Megatron to the remainder of the Decepticons as proof that he is the one true Decepticon commander, and Megatron is simply not worthy, as Shockwave demands that the Decepticon troops swear allegiance to him, and as the reader turns the page, we find no objections, including that of Megatron himself, as Buster and Ratchet are left lonely to ponder the future of both the Autobots and the Earth. And that's it for a whistle-stop tour of Marvel Comics Transformers number 6, which in modern-day comic book parlance would now be enough for a story arc and a trade paperback, which is exactly how Titan Books presented it in the UK back in 2003, titled The Beginnings. And as always, we'll showcase the UK covers as well, both from the August of 1985. This first one sees this original piece of art by John Higgins of Shockwave closing down the oil rig, and our second seeing the US art used again, but with some slightly retouched colours and a little speech balloon emanating from the US military helicopter, which, to be fair, I think I prefer as it adds some much needed context. So, if you read this issue, please let me know in the comments. And if you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you didn't like it, leave one anyway. Thanks for watching along, folks. And above all, stay safe.